You won't believe what Janelle just uncovered. A secret mortgage, a $2.1 million mansion, and years of broken promises. As the truth behind Robyn and Cody's hidden land deal comes to light, tensions in the Brown family hit a breaking point. Was the family dream always just smoke and mirrors? If you've ever felt left out or lied to, this one hits home. Watch now and see how everything unraveled. Sometimes it's not what's said, it's what isn't. Sister Wives fans have observed the Brown family attempting to navigate the utopian potential of plural marriage for years. They've witnessed love being tried, loyalties being changed, and dreams being constructed, then slowly dismantled. But behind all the family council meetings, sentimental soliloquies, and tearful couch interviews, something else was going on. Something nobody discussed on tape. A secret deal that didn't only alter where one wife resided, but how the rest of them perceived the family they'd spent years working to keep together. It began with a house, a large, lovely house. At first blush, it looked like any other move for Robyn and Cody. Nothing unusual. But when the figures began to appear, when the documents found their way into public records, suspicions began to arise. And not only from viewers, from Janelle, from Mary, from women who had given up their own security, their own aspirations for home, in the name of keeping the vision of the Brown family alive. And before she knew it, those questions were impossible to ignore. You ever have that moment when something just doesn't feel right? When you can't quite put your finger on it, but somewhere inside of you, you know someone's not telling the whole truth? That's where Janelle was. For years, she'd been the practical one. The one who kept the family budget in line, who made the tough choices, who shelved her own wants. And while she was pinching pennies and putting away money for a humble home on Coyote Pass, Robyn was moving into a $2.1 million estate with a panoramic view and double staircases. No hint of it in family gatherings. No group discussions, just signatures on a mortgage and secret whispers behind doors. The hurtful part? Janelle didn't even know it had occurred until the papers appeared online. That's when everything changed. It wasn't the secrecy alone. It was how big it all was. A nearly $1.7 million loan, a reported cash down payment of $420,000, and no definitive answer as to where that money came from. Not Cody, not Robyn, just vague assurances that didn't jibe with what the family had been told. That things were tight, that they had to wait, that it wasn't possible to build on Coyote Pass at the moment. So why was one wife downsizing, while another was furnishing a ballroom-sized dining room? For the viewers who've been keeping up with the show for years, this isn't just a deal on real estate. It's the moment the curtain finally rose, the moment the unspoken reality about favoritism, money, and broken trust finally became undeniable. And if you're one of those people who's ever felt left behind by a major decision, who's ever watched somebody else get the promotion while they followed the rules, then this tale is going to ring all too true. Because what began as one wife being curious has escalated into something much larger. Janelle isn't merely wondering. She's apparently going back through documents, reading accounts, and questioning if her money paid for a life she wasn't ever invited to join. And she's not alone. Mary, too often the reserved one, is beginning to voice something as well, revisiting past conversations, reconsidering what she was told, and rethinking her role in facilitating Robyn's entrance into family. Suddenly, all those small red flags, the ones that were easy to dismiss earlier, are beginning to look like a trend. And then there's Cody. You recognize that gesture when someone sidesteps a question too readily, as if they are attempting to keep one step in front of the facts? That is how insiders explain Cody's reaction when he was questioned. Initially confusion, followed by deflection. Then, finally, blame. He explained to the women that they were overreacting, that it was all part of a larger scheme, that they should have trusted him. But when you've spent years trusting someone who keeps moving the goalpost, what else is left? This isn't just about money anymore. It's about what money reveals, priorities, power, who's included in the future and who's not. And maybe, for the first time, Janelle and Mary aren't afraid to ask the hard questions out loud. You see, in the early seasons, the ideal of Coyote Pass had been hope. 4 houses, 1 large family, children running between communal backyards, holidays shared beneath one roof. But now, that property is deserted, and the only person who wound up with a home for life is the wife who was allegedly just trying to keep the peace. So, was the dream ever real? Or was it just something to keep everyone else waiting? While Robyn built a life of her own in secret, what happens when the illusion of equality recedes, and all that's left is the fine print? That's the story we're about to walk through, step by step, from the first loan documents to the final fallout, from the quiet suspicions to the louder demands for answers. And along the way, we'll look at what this moment means for a family that once swore they'd face everything together. Because at its heart, this isn't just a sister-wives scandal. It's a story about trust, sacrifice, and what happens when the foundation you've built your life on starts to shift. So, settle in. This one's personal, and it's far from over. Janelle, this part, it's really for you. Oh, those are so pretty. I think she's here. Yep, I heard the door. That's how the day began. Casual, calm, almost cheerful. But what came next would turn everything upside down. See, Robyn Brown might have thought she could hide the truth under a stack of paperwork and real estate doublespeak. But that $2.1 million Flagstaff estate, it didn't merely turn heads, it blew the lid clean off the Brown family's tenuous foundation. And it wasn't just the jaw-dropping price, it was what the house symbolized, or rather, what it concealed. He looks after himself. He knows what he needs to do, and just does it, himself and for Robyn. Someone who knows the family said, I think he's going to mess around with Mary and Janelle totally. That's the atmosphere in the room today. While Janelle and the others were still mired in emotional arguments over land and promises, waiting for Kody to honor his promise to construct on Coyote Pass, Kody and Robyn were quietly signing mortgage deeds behind closed doors, dozen after dozen. And now, that paper trail is coming into light at last. Robyn's name, Kody's signature, and a mortgage figure that has Janelle seething. Because as inside sources know, Janelle was never informed, never asked for her input, never even alerted. She just looked up one day, and Robyn had a mansion, double staircases, chandelier lighting, sweeping vistas, and a 7-figure loan balance. Janelle didn't have to beat around the bush. He's always taken care of himself. And now, for himself and Robyn. And the thing about it is, nobody's arguing that Robyn couldn't purchase a house. She had the right to. That's not what the issue is. What has people shaken up, what supposedly has Janelle calling for answers, is the timing, the secrecy, and the fact that this wasn't just some little humble starter home. It was a palace, and she purchased it while the other wives were still renting, still pinching pennies, still holding on to the dream that Coyote Pass would be theirs. It was in 2019 that Robyn and Cody slipped into the house unobtrusively, just when money stress was beginning to simmer just beneath the surface. And today, we have the figures. Purchase price, $2.1 million. Mortgage, $1,080,000. Down payment, a whispered $420,000. Paid cash. And thus, of course, the question du jour. Where did that money come from? Because as Robyn was moving in to her ideal house, Janelle was cutting back on everything, even reducing her lifestyle. According to insiders, Janelle always thought that big family financial decisions went through the group, that they discussed things together as a team. But this never happened. Not at family gatherings, not individually, not even on TV. Actually, according to one source, Janelle learned just like the fans did, by finding the mortgage in public records. And let's be honest, she didn't take it well. She was shocked, enraged, betrayed, because while she was being asked to tighten her belt and wait in line for Coyote Pass to actually happen, Robyn already had her dream home. And that's when the unraveling really commenced. Janelle didn't simply become angry. She became curious. And what exactly did she supposedly discover? It wasn't merely shocking, it was personal. Originally, it was merely that mortgage figure. Enormous, disturbing. But when she began to pull at the thread, what unraveled didn't resemble a simple home buying arrangement. It resembled a secret, one that the family was never meant to know. And the first breadcrumb? It was right in front of her. Anyone with access to a computer could see the public records. And there it was, in black and white. Purchase price, $2,100,000. But beneath all the newspaper stories and blog chatter, the real questions began surfacing. The kind that don't get easy answers. Like, how did Kody and Robyn even qualify for a $1.68 million mortgage in the first place? And more importantly, where did they come up with close to $500,000 in cash to finish the transaction. Here's what didn't add up. Robyn never had a side income stream. She wasn't operating a side business. The only known source of income she had was the show. And even that was part of the family's communally derived earnings. So when Janelle began to crunch the numbers, going back over all that she knew about the Browns' finances, the debts, the delays on Coyote Pass, the start and stop businesses, it just didn't add up. The math didn't math. And before long, the rumors started. Not from producers or family members, but neighbors. From locals in Flagstaff. Individuals who'd seen Kody and Robyn out and about around town, looking neat, established, at ease. The rest of the family, on the other hand, not even on the same tax scale. It wasn't merely a large house, it was a luxury mansion, with gates and landscaping and full furnishings, all while Christine was still trying to figure out her next move. While Janelle was, at some point, residing in an RV on Coyote Pass property because she didn't feel like investing money in yet another rental. Robyn, on the other hand, she was unpacking her china plates in a fancy dining room the size of a hotel ballroom. And here's what actually stood out. Not once throughout that season's episodes, not once in Kody's numerous lengthy diatribes, was anyone ever mentioned. The loan, the $1.68 million mortgage, the enormous financial burden that bound Kody and Robyn into debt for decades. It just all quietly took place. One person close to the family said Robyn had a reason for it. She reportedly told her, "The house is for all of us, eventually." That someday, it was going to be the family home. But to Janelle, that sounded more like a cop-out than a genuine plan. Because if it really was for everyone, why wasn't everybody else consulted about it? Why were Kody and Robyn's names only on the documents? Why did the house seem so obviously designed for Robyn's taste? The decor, the finishes, the location, all of it seemed constructed for one vision, not a joint one. And let me tell you, nobody's upset about throw pillows or chandeliers. The problem isn't the aesthetics, it's the principle. It's the fact that Kody and Robyn dropped money like that on a luxury home while simultaneously, Kody was telling the other wives to get tight and wait to build. He had obligations to 3 other homes, but the only one he appeared to be putting stock in was Robyn's. Even diehard followers began to wonder. Copies of the mortgage agreements began circulating on Reddit, Facebook, and fan sites. Headlines such as, "Robyn's real priority revealed." They hid this for years. It wasn't curiosity anymore. It was outrage. Audiences weren't only amazed at the grandeur of the house, they were stunned at how long it had been kept secret. And in the background, that's just how Janelle reportedly felt. Deprived of transparency, sidetracked from the biggest financial decision the family ever made. So she began asking the tough questions. Who else did they tell? Was any of her money used? Because if even a single dollar of mutual investment had assisted in the making of that down payment, then Robyn's quaint white picket fence fantasy just became the subject of a pretty real financial scandal. And Janelle didn't need to dig too deep before things began getting fuzzy. Because the true red flag? It wasn't even the mortgage. It was the down payment of $420,000. That's not chump change. That kind of money doesn't just materialize out of thin air. Not for a family working bills, debts, and years of financial hardship. That's when Janelle began to doubt. Because when the mansion deal was made in 2019, the Brown family wasn't exactly settled. Christine and Janelle had both been informed they couldn't proceed with their houses on Coyote Pass. Why? Because, claimed Kody, the funds just weren't available. Permits were put off, budgets were thin, progress would have to wait. And yet, in secret, Kody and Robyn were secretly investing almost $500,000 in a mansion. It wasn't suspicious. It was a betrayal. Someone who is close to the family's finances says Janelle looked back and began checking her own books. She saw joint accounts that had been depleted, mysterious payments made, and holes in the story she'd been fed. No one's confirmed her money was directly used for Robyn's down payment, but the lack of clarity alone was enough to make Janelle furious. And here's where the story gets even more personal. Some viewers have noted how Robyn enjoys portraying herself as frugal, and Janelle, on the other hand, has been the one who could not afford to keep up. But if what Janelle discovered is true, then Robyn's image of being financially responsible begins to crumble. There's even speculation that Kody might have taken loans from family money, presenting them as short-term loans or mutual investments, only to redirect that money into Robyn's future. If that's the case, then Janelle's frustration is understandable. And she's not the only one. Even Mary is said to have begun questioning whether she unknowingly helped fuel the financial decisions that now leave her with very little. Back when Robyn joined the family, Mary was her biggest supporter. She was the one who pushed for Robyn's legal marriage to Kody. She helped with childcare. Some say she even supported Robyn's early home loan applications. But now, Robyn lives in a gated, multi-million-dollar home, and Mary's been bouncing between rentals and short-term Airbnbs. According to one insider, Mary has been telling close friends, "I thought I was assisting the entire family. I guess I was only assisting them." And here's the crux of the matter. None of it was ever aired on television. Not in the family sessions, not in those couch interviews, not even during the much famous one-on-one sessions where Kody would normally roll down his sleeves. Their fans now believe it wasn't an accident. This was not something they had merely forgotten to report. It was supposedly a cover-up, a planned one at that, a decision to not inform the other wives, nor the public, about what was going on until it was all settled and irrevocable. And if Janelle's name wound up attached to any of those transactions, even inadvertently, that's the door to repayment requests, legal action, or worse, public dismantling of every financial strand in their past. Because when you trace the money in this family, it never goes where you think. And this time, it just might take you right to Robyn's front door. By the time Janelle got all the details together, something within her allegedly broke. For years, she'd been the practical one, the thrifty one, the wife who always sacrificed, always went along with the plan, always had faith in the shared vision of Coyote Pass. In the meantime, Kody and Robyn were living the dream and sharing it with no one. They split the mortgage, the bills, the benefits, all of it. When Janelle was out in an RV, charting out septic systems and inspecting permit applications, Robyn was already installed in a hand-built living room next to a stone fireplace. The disparity was savage. According to sources, Janelle felt profoundly embarrassed, like she'd been sold a dream of equality, but ultimately was left locked out, both financially and emotionally. So she dropped the nice act. Rather than seeking updates, she began seeking answers. One of Janelle's friends of the family says Janelle even went face-to-face with Kody after she discovered the entire $420,000 down payment. She demanded to know, from him in plain words, "Where did that money go? Did you spend my part without consulting me?" Kody, being himself, reportedly dodged the question again. He initially reported that it was from a different loan. Then, he told her it was a once-in-a-lifetime chance they couldn't afford to miss. And lastly, when pushed again, he quite literally switched it around on her. "If you had trusted the process," he said to her, "you'd have your own home by now too." That, sources indicate, was the breaking point. For that was when Janelle finally understood. There was never a process, not one that involved her. All her planning, her budgeting, her patience, gone to help some other person's forever home. And now, Janelle's not playing anymore. Sources say she's scrutinizing each and every financial transaction related to the Coyote Pass timeline, posing questions she never imagined she'd have to pose. Who paid whom? When were monies transferred? Why was Kody's name on both sides of the deal? And perhaps the question of all questions, if that house was truly for the family, why did Robyn never let anyone else in? As one close family friend puts it, Janelle's even considering speaking with a lawyer. Not to sue, not yet at least, but just to know her rights. Because if any of her funds found their way into that down payment, even by mistake, she could be due some kind of reimbursement or equity. And that's a discussion Robyn likely does not wish to have, particularly now, when opinion is finally turning. For years, Robyn had been the misunderstood one, the quiet one, the outsider who attempted to keep the peace. But this secret multi-million-dollar mortgage, brokered while the other wives were still chasing broken promises and monitoring budgets, this feels intentional, not sweet, not misunderstood, intentional. And if Janelle does pursue things legally, the next shockwave may not be emotional. It could be legal. But here's the twist. Of everyone to stand up, no one thought it would be Mary. For years, she hung in, lovingly true, still arriving even when love and affection were gone a long time ago. She never tipped the boat over. She never asked for more. She waited and waited. But recently, something's different. Perhaps it's the freedom she sensed when she finally left Kody. Maybe it's the sting of realizing she might have been used, a stepping stone in Robyn's climb to comfort. Either way, insiders say Mary's not staying silent anymore. Because when Janelle started raising concerns about where the down payment really came from, Mary started thinking back. And the memories hit hard. Back when the Browns first moved to Flagstaff, things were tight. They were instructed that the family had to come together financially, make sacrifices, begin anew. So Mary did what she always did. She appeared. She gave up her home in Las Vegas. She scaled back. She postponed her own aspirations. And she assumed everyone else was doing the same. Now she is questioning whether her sacrifices went toward financing someone else's aspiration. Because that $420,000 down payment on Robyn's house, it lines up almost too perfectly with a stretch of time where money was quietly pulled from family accounts. According to sources, Mary's been reviewing her own bank records, scanning old transactions, and spotting red flags, amounts taken under the family's name, but with no clear purpose. It's all starting to look off. No hard papers have surfaced publicly yet, but the gossip is rampant, and increasingly, fans are starting to whisper what Christine and Janelle might have learned years ago. That Robyn could have been playing a game of long-term strategy, one in which she seemed committed and devoted on the surface, but quietly gained a foothold for herself and Kody behind closed doors. And now, Mary knows, and she's furious. When Janelle and she sat down in private, just the two of them, apart from cameras, apart from Kody, the discussion apparently became raw. She showed him what she'd uncovered, the bank trails, the loan information, the explanations missing, and Mary did not deflect. She did not shield Kody. She did not deny. She became angry at the notion that family funds may have been used to pay for Robyn's future, while everyone else was stuck with apologies and shattered dreams. One insider close to the situation summed it up bluntly. Mary told Janelle, "We helped build that life, and they built it without us." It's a sentence that cuts deep, because, for years, Janelle and Mary weren't exactly friends. Their relationship had been tense, strained by changing allegiances, unequal treatment, and Kody's incessant efforts at dividing and controlling them. But now, they've found common ground. And this isn't about jealousy. This isn't about hurt feelings. It's about justice. They want to know, where exactly did the money go? Who approved it? Who profited from it? And most importantly, who was intentionally kept in the dark? This isn't about property lines or whose hand signed a mortgage. It's about trust. And the wake-up call discovery that, for more than 10 years, one wife may have been playing chess, while the others were merely grasping for how to keep the family afloat on duct tape and prayer alone. As for Kody, well, when things get intense, he does what he always does, deflect. When Janelle and Mary supposedly approached him with the news of the huge loan on the mansion, insiders claim he immediately went into damage control mode. First, the discombobulation. "What loan?" he supposedly inquired, as if his own autograph wasn't sitting there in black and white on Flagstaff County records. Then, the outrage. He supposedly informed the women that they were making a big deal out of nothing, that the house was a family investment, that they should appreciate he and Robyn had done it all behind the scenes, without troubling them. But the issue with Kody's tale? Even some of her longtime apologists are starting to wonder if chaos was actually the issue, or whether this was simply the price of constructing a future no one else had been invited to join. Some tried to have sympathy, but the rest? They weren't buying the act, because, come on, a $2.1 million home with a $1.7 million mortgage? That's not the move of a person still living survival mode. That's a tactical choice, not an appeal for sympathy. Insiders close to production report Robyn was fully aware of how things would play out and had even been told to tone down her tone to prevent creating further backlash. But it was too late by then. The image she'd spent years cultivating, the shy, frazzled outsider who just wanted to blend into a big, crazy family, had fallen apart. Now, Robyn was no longer regarded as the underdog. She was the one who benefited most by acting like she was least interested in power or position. She informed fans the house was for the family, but she omitted one detail, small as it is. Only she and Kody's names appeared on the documents. She said they were sacrificing too, but her sacrifice was accompanied by walk-in closets, stone fireplaces, and central air. And when one finally dared to ask why Janelle and Mary were never brought into the loop on the decision, Robyn reportedly shrugged silently and replied, "It varies with each rendition." Occasionally, he describes the mansion as a shrewd business deal, a house that would appreciate and value and ultimately reward everyone. But when questioned for details, such as how the equity would be split or how soon the remainder of the family would be repaid, he gave no more than general assurances. Sometimes, Kody is said to have professed that the house was a necessity, that Robyn's children required stability, that the mortgage had been taken out in urgent circumstances. But nobody is buying it now, because while Christine and Janelle were budget cutting and doing without, Kody and Robyn were throwing family gatherings under a chandelier, putting in high-end finishes, and snuggling up before the stone fireplace in their $2 million mansion. And viewers? They're catching on. Cyber sleuths have been unearthing timelines, aligning Kody's on-screen claims of tight budgets with real estate records indicating that he and Robyn finalized the purchase of the mansion days later. To many, it appears to be gaslighting. He informed the other wives there was no money, while furtively arranging for a dream home for one woman and putting the rest on hold. Today, with Janelle demanding explanations and Mary checking in on her own budget, Kody's contradictions are beginning to disintegrate. His latest ploy? Asserting it was all a miscommunication, that literally everyone knew there was a house, just not the loan, that no one had actually asked about mortgage information, so he didn't bring it up. It's the sort of defense that has the wives going crazy for questioning it in the first place. But this time, it's not succeeding, because the figures are right in front. The documents are there, and the harm isn't hypothetical anymore. It's to his feelings. Insiders report Kody has even begun turning things around on Janelle, labeling her as ungrateful, even paranoid, that her digging is what's hurting the family. But from Janelle's perspective, the damage was done long ago, the moment transparency disappeared. According to one confidant, Janelle put it plainly, "He expects us to stay loyal, while he builds a future we're not even part of." That quote is now circulating across social media, shared on Facebook, reposted in fan groups, because it hits home. This whole situation, it's not just about the money, it's about being left behind. As Kody and Robyn went on, the women who established the foundation of that family were quietly erased from the next chapter. And when Robyn did finally find her voice, it wasn't at a press conference. It wasn't even an official statement. It was done through one of her classic weepy interviews, the ones that always cast her as the wronged wife, struggling to make it through the madness. She didn't own up, she didn't apologize, but instead, Robyn allegedly spun the whole mansion debacle as a tragic misinterpretation. "We just wanted a stable home," she tearfully said. "The kids needed somewhere to grow up without all the chaos." It was pure Robyn, tearful, emotional, evasive. But after all that's been revealed, we didn't want to cause more stress. But whatever stress she wanted to avoid, it's fair to say that the plan blew up, big time. Because now, the world is shining its brightest spotlight on her like never before. The instant the details of the loan made headlines, social media went wild. One of the viral comments captured it best. "Robyn is always crying about being judged, but she built a palace and left the rest of us in the dust." Fans began scanning through past episodes, catching small discrepancies they'd previously glossed over. One Redditor even spotted Robyn discussing waiting on Coyote Pass, months later when she'd already moved in at the mansion. That scene? It threw the fan base into a spin. As for Janelle, she's not swallowing the tears. Not this time. Sources around her report that she views the teary-eyed interviews for what they are: damage control. "It's always emotional manipulation," one insider said. "She plays like she's been wronged, but she's the one who's living in a mansion and the rest were living in rentals or RVs." Even Mary, who had initially defended Robyn from her critics, has remained silent. And sometimes silence says it all. Because what's becoming increasingly evident by the day is this: Robyn's emotional playbook tricks just don't work like they once did. The script has changed. She's no longer the sympathized with one. She's the one who's being interrogated. And if Robyn really thought she could blubber her way out of this most recent confession, she might have miscalculated how deep this crack goes. Because what comes next is not so much about explanations anymore. It's about repercussions. And right at the center of those repercussions, Coyote Pass, that holy piece of property, the vision, the promise. Now it just gathers dust, barren, unbuilt, unchallenged. A testament to what could have been, and all that went astray. When the Browns initially purchased that land, they talked about unity, about constructing 4 houses, raising their children together, building something beautiful and endearing. It was sentimental. It was promising. It was, perhaps, just an illusion, or worst of all, a handy fib. Because while Janelle was out there hiking the property with her tape measure, envisioning a small home with hope, Robyn and Cody were already getting comfortable in their forever home, miles away, in every sense. And for viewers who've been keeping up with this slow unraveling year after year, that thought hits hard. Because now they're wondering if the Coyote Pass dream was ever anything more than a placeholder, a narrative to keep everyone waiting, while Robyn and Cody constructed their real life without the rest. Eventually, it was obvious. Robyn had already moved out. She wasn't constructing on Coyote Pass. She wasn't going to. And the evidence isn't just in what she says, it's in the documents. While Janelle was still paying for property taxes and attempting to make that mutual fantasy a reality, Robyn had quietly ceased contributing to Coyote Pass costs shortly after she and Cody moved into their mansion. She just diverted her money to her own house without informing anybody. And for Janelle, it wasn't merely a betrayal. It was the loss of a dream. She had defended plural marriage for years. She thought one day they'd all be neighbors, that their children would grow up together, that holidays would be whole again. But here, on the dry Arizona ground, where their future was to be built, all she sees is a graveyard of failed promises. And the longer she glances at that dusty piece of land, the more she asks herself, was it all just a distraction? A means of sustaining her optimism as Robyn quietly constructed a life the others were never privy to? What aggravates it is the timing. Cody and Robyn finalized that estate just as tensions inside the family were bursting at the seams. Christine was drifting off. Mary was ostracized. Janelle was barely keeping it together. And rather than rallying to protect the dream they all shared, Robyn and Cody doubled down on a 3-car garage and granite countertops. It sent a message, one that couldn't be unsent. They were done waiting, done pretending, and everyone else was left to dig through the ashes of a dream that never actually included them. Now, with mortgage documents on the table and Robyn's rolling question, viewers are wondering the same thing Janelle has wondered for months. Was Coyote Pass a true plan or merely a smokescreen to stall as Robyn quietly secured her future? For if that land was the aspiration, then Robyn's mansion was the exit strategy. Initially, rumors of legal participation seemed like fan conjecture, just more cyberdin. But now, insiders say those murmurs were something else, a warning. Sources close to the family say Janelle and Mary have begun discreetly speaking with attorneys, not to sue per se, yet, but to get a better grasp on their rights, particularly about money, because if any of their funds, past, present, were diverted to assist in paying part or all of Robyn's down payment or mortgage without so much as a whisper, this could turn into a discussion not of forgiveness, but of restitution. And that is a word Cody and Robyn do not wish to hear. It's not who paid whom. It's about what was promised. For years, the Browns had lived on a loose system of communal family money. Everyone contributed, and funds were dispersed as needed. But loose systems are dependent on trust. And when that trust is shattered, all that's left are paper trails and agonizing silence. With Janelle supposedly going over previous transactions, investigating overlaps between joint account withdrawals, and the timing of Robyn's mansion purchase, Cody's family is said to be getting anxious because an incorrect overlap could lead to serious legal claims. Family friends summed it up roughly. When money crosses state lines, joint accounts, and marriage boundaries, things get messy fast. And if Janelle or Mary can establish that they did contribute, even if it was unintentional, they might be in line for some payback. That would mean Robyn would have to respond to questions, by no means limited to the dinner table, but in court. And let's not pretend, a lawsuit among former sister wives would resonate in the tabloids more than anything TLC could dream up. It doesn't hurt matters any that Robyn and Cody have remained strangely silent since the mortgage documents appeared. Aside from Robyn's tearful interview and Cody's angry ramblings, No one has offered evidence that the money spent was all their own. No declarations, no receipts, just evasive vagueness and cringeworthy silence. And that silence? It's beginning to resemble avoidance. Janelle's whole demeanor has switched in the meantime. She's finished with saying, "I just want peace." Now she's quoted as saying, "I want what's mine." And Mary? She's not holding back anymore either. And according to one insider close to her, Mary is now cross-checking whether Kody kept the assets guaranteed under their plural marriage agreement. Because if those assets were somehow diverted into Robyn's house, that's a different level of betrayal. And a betrayal that could be accompanied by legal repercussions. Because this isn't about a mansion anymore, or an abandoned strip of land. It's about accountability. It's about what occurs when years of collective sacrifice culminate in a single individual taking all the spoils. And if lawyers begin filing papers, if restitution gets more than it gets lip service, Robyn might wish she provided more than an overly emotional apology. Because in the real world, forgiveness is not necessary. And now, financial accountability isn't merely a plea. It's about to become a law. Because ultimately, it may not be the mansion itself that shatters the Brown family for good. It's what the mansion symbolizes. That $2.1 million home overlooking Flagstaff, gated, manicured, with stunning views, has become a symbol. But not of unity, not of achievement. It now symbolizes division, secrets, and the silent strength that Robyn has amassed behind the closed doors while everyone else was still holding on to the fantasy of a single big, happy family. Now that the mortgage is revealed and the emotional shockwaves are radiating throughout all the nooks of their previously blended lives, one thing stands achingly obvious. This was not merely a mansion of luxury. It was the last fissure in a foundation that had been deteriorating for years. And nobody's turnaround reveals that more than Janelle's. The woman who used to balance the books for the family, who stood up for Kody's choices, even when it cost her, is no longer sitting quietly by. She's been quoted as saying to friends, "I don't want revenge. I want the truth." And if the truth verifies what she believes, then she wants her share, her investment, her respect, because she remained silent for far too long, attempting to maintain peace, only to realize that peace was never meant for her. And Mary's shift is just as powerful. She was often dismissed as bitter or stuck in the past. But now, Mary's moving with purpose, not to rebuild what's gone, but to reclaim what was promised. If Robyn's lavish life was built, in part, on Mary's emotional or financial sacrifices, then Mary isn't going to stay quiet anymore. And if that involves signing her name on legal papers or appearing in front of cameras, then so be it. She's prepared. Now, Robyn, the gloss is coming off. That tired script of her as the misunderstood fourth wife, it no longer works. Fans aren't swallowing the tears streaming down her face or soothingly spoken regrets. Not when receipts indicate years of quiet privilege, Kody's devotion, management of finances, and a way of life no other wife ever received. And Kody's refusal to own the optics, it only hurts more. Because in a world where image is everything, this bombshell has revealed the truth that's impossible to overlook. Robyn wasn't Kody's favorite. She was bankrolled. So where does the family go from here? It's difficult to say. The harm has been done. The records are out, and the faith that previously bound this family together has been broken. Whether it becomes an in-courtroom fight or merely a series of silent departures, one thing is now sure. There's no turning back. Not after all this. So here's the question really. Should Robyn be held financially liable? And was this mansion transaction the ultimate evidence that the family utopia was never real to start with? Let us hear your thoughts in the comments. And if not yet, subscribe to Sister Wives Daily Scoop for more hot, exclusive analysis and emotional dives. And don't move far. The next video on your screen has even greater truth bombs in store. Trust us, you won't want to miss it.